This tape is going to deal with knife defenses. Before I get into the technical part of it, I want to introduce you to concepts of knife attacks and knife threats. It is important that you understand the difference. Number one, a knife attack is already somebody attacking you, lunging in, either trying to slash you or stab you. That is considered a knife attack. Then you will have the knife threat. The knife threat will be somebody putting the blade to your neck from the front, the side, or rear, and making a threat, same thing as it would be a threat with a gun. Those are two different scenarios, and they have to be treated differently as far as the strategies and the tactics. As far as the knives are probably the most dangerous tool or weapon you're gonna meet in a street fight. Even more dangerous than a gun. A lot of people say, oh, he's got a gun. Gun is less dangerous because as soon as you understand the mentality of line of fire, get out of the line of fire, redirect the line of fire, it's easier to deal with the gun than with the knife. The knife will stay alive the whole time. In other words, the weapon is the blade, and that blade is going to stay dangerous the whole encounter. You cannot neutralize the blade. Blade is there to either stab you or cut you, and that's part of the nature of the tool. Number two, a knife is very quick. Any knife fight, it's going to happen fast. Some knife fights, you don't even realize they got a knife before you got cut. In other words, you realize there's a knife involved because all of a sudden you got cut. That is why it is probably the most dangerous weapon on the street. The Haganah system has put a lot of research, a lot of training time, a lot of skill drills development for this part of the system because of the nature of the weapon. Historically, also in the Middle East, there was a lot of attacks of blades on Israelis during the first intifada, the first uprising. Therefore, we had a lot of encounters with the knives, and that became part of the landscaping as far as combat is concerned. With that in mind, you're going to have to understand what a knife is and how a knife operates. Thereafter, you're going to have to understand how a knife attack, what kind of nature a knife attack has, and how you're going to stop that. As far as knife defenses is concerned, I don't like to call it knife defense in the sense of as soon as he's got a weapon, he is strategically and tactically more armed than you. And it is a paradox to go into a state of mind, I'm going to defend myself against a knife. It is always better to either equal your weapon, in other words, deploy your own knife, or greater your weapon, he comes with a knife and you got a gun. The knife defenses or the knife threat defenses are there as a last resort as an Haganah practitioner. In other words, if he pulls a knife and I have access to a knife, I will pull my knife before I'll go into empty hand against a knife. However, terrorism and criminal activities will dictate that sometimes you will not have a knife. In other words, the enemy is going to have a knife and you don't have a knife to deploy even if you wanted to deploy a knife. This is why this is considered last resort technique. In other words, I will resort to this as my last line of fire. My first line of fire will be greater the weapon, second line of fire equal the weapon, and this will be, okay, I don't have a weapon, I don't have an access to the weapon, and I have to survive this encounter without a weapon. So if you have a choice, deploy a weapon. If you don't have a choice, the techniques that you're going to see in this tape will be what will make you survive the edge weapon attack. Okay, one of the big reasons why in the Haganah system we program our students not to go empty hands versus a knife if you can. In other words, if I attack Carlos with a knife and he has the option to deploy a knife, it is better for him to deploy the knife versus that he tries to seize me or disarm him or defend himself without a knife. That would be the reason for that. If Carlos is dealing with a deranged person that comes attack him, the untrained knife fighter is going to commit to it. He's deranged, he's enraged, and he's just coming at it. In that scenario, it will be possible for Carlos to defend himself. However, if you're dealing with an experienced knife fighter, it's going to be in and out. There is no way on earth you're going to be able to seize that hand, because the trained knife fighter not only will have a good entry, but also he's going to probably rotate you before you come in, and it's going to be too much stress for you to grab that knife. So yes, the knife against knife will work against inexperienced knife fighter, but against an experienced knife fighter, you better deploy your own knife, because you have to equalize your level into the knife. "90-degree blocks are there as a surviving tool to survive the encounter in the engagement part of it." Okay? When he attacks you with that knife, you're going to be stressed out. It's going to come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden his intention went from 0 to 100. I want to take your life with that knife. You're going to have a tactic that is proven to make you survive the initial encounter. But this tactic is there as a tool to transit. In other words, if I know I have a knife, or if I know I have a gun, I'm going to want to deploy that weapon to either equal myself to him as an opponent, or either greater myself. In other words, if I got a firearm, by all means, pull out your firearm. So the 90-degree tool is going to be the surviving tool for that transaction. Now, why do I want to deploy my weapon versus just defend myself? If he attacks me, and I survive that engagement, and I pull a weapon, it's going to take away everything he's got. In other words, all of a sudden, he's thinking, man, I came in with a knife, he survived it, and now he's got a knife as well. So that 90-degree block has to be instinctive in your neuromuscular system just to get in there. Now, it will be done like so. If he comes in with an attack right here, okay, it could be a slash, it could be a stab. At this particular moment, I can't read what's coming in. It's too much stressful. I am going to enter with a 90-degree. Now, that block has to be firm in the sense of I'm stopping him. Okay? Right now, he came in, and his objective has been changed by me basically stopping him. From here, I'm going to counterattack with a punch to the face. The counterattack to the punch to the face is going to create two things. Number one, I'm going to short circuit him. He's going to think, ouch, versus I'm going to cut him. Number two, it will open the distance. When the distance is open, now I deploy my own weapon. Now he's got to come back knife versus knife. When he comes back knife versus knife, his confidence level dropped. All right, so every time you know that you can deploy a weapon, you're going to use the 90-degree block with the counter. It could be coming from this angle. Then it'll be 90-degree here. Again, I have a 90-degree. I'll pop him here, disconnect, and from here deploy my own weapon. In other words, the 90-degree block is there as a tool for deployment. Okay, we covered the 90 degrees and disconnection and deployment. Now I'm getting into knife defenses when I don't have a knife. It is important that you understand the concept here that when you don't have a weapon to deploy, the last thing I want to do is block him and pop him, because that will disconnect him. And that violates the principle of the Haganah, that any attack coming in, I don't want to repel him. I want to seize him. I want to absorb him, demolish him, and spit him out, so to speak. In other words, when I don't have a weapon, my objective is to bring him in. In other words, let him do his thing and let me seize it and take it from there. As a guideline, we do not like to disarm a knife, because for two reasons. Number one, when he attacks you with that knife, all his thoughts are right here. His objective is to use this as a tool. By me going for a disarm, and whatever disarm it is, I am going right into the storm. It is not a good tactic. In other words, as a guideline, I am not going to go to disarm. Number two, I'm not going to need the disarm. As you're going to see the techniques coming in, I'm going to use my objectives versus a disarm. When this attacker comes in with the knife, his intention is clear in that he's going to want to take your life. In other words, he's using a deadly weapon and he wants to take your life. It is clear. In other words, I can go into my objective of incapacitations and terminations because morally it is warranted, and of course you're going to have to check with your jurisdictions where you will be attacked with a knife, so to speak. But in other words, I'm okay with incapacitating him because he's got a deadly weapon in his hand. On another hand, if I disarm him and take the knife, and now he rushes in and I use that knife against him, now there's a legal issue of I'm using a deadly weapon that's not mine, but my fingerprints is on it, and blah, 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 and this and that. I don't want to get to that knife. I want to get to my objectives. He comes in with the first one. The first one will be here. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here and seize it. Okay. The seizing is basically me saying I'm not disconnecting. And every technique you're going to have coming in, I am going to want to seize versus block. If I block, there's a freedom. In other words, if I use a block, that hand is free. All right. It's going to give me another transition to seize that knife. No good. And the attack comes in and I'm empty-handed, I'm going to have to seize that knife. As soon as I seize him, I can start going to work. And that will bring me to my objective versus disarms. Also, in the knife attacks, just like in the hand-to-hand combat techniques, I'm going to have a point of reference that I'm going to bring you to. In other words, every attack that's going to come with the knife, I'm going to bring you to a point of reference. That will be your confidence landmark. In other words, you're going to be stressed out, don't have no doubt about it. He's got a knife, it's coming in, you're going to be stressed out. As soon as you seize him and start going to work, I'm going to bring you to a point of reference. That point of reference is going to give you, again, 3 options. And those options you will be taking as your objective will be. Before we get into the techniques and the defenses, you're going to have to understand angles of attack. Angles of attack is a tool we use as a traveling line when the knife comes at me, as a reading of the actions coming in. When you're going to be attacked with the knife, you're not going to be able to identify if it's going to be a stab or a slash. If you try to identify that, it's going to take that processing too long. And by the time you realize it's a stab or a slash, it's too late and the attack is over. Knife fight is very quick and you don't have time to try to identify if it's a stab or slash. Instead, I am going to read the angles where it's coming from. The first angle is going to be a diagonal angle. In other words, the blade travels in a diagonal line across. Okay, this could be a slash or it could be a stab. It doesn't matter. The line of travel is the same. Also, he could be in right lead. In other words, the knife is up front. The knife is up front, or he could be a left lead. The knife is in the back, or the knife is in the back. I treat that the same. In other words, I treat that per angle, not according to the technique or the lead of the opponent. That's too much stuff under pressure for you to read. Second angle. Second angle will be diagonal on the other side. Again, this could be a slash. This could be a stab. I could be in left lead or I could be in right lead. To him, he sees it as a line of delivery as the same angle. All the leads and the stabs and techniques do not matter. It could be even in a reverse grip. I could be here stabbing or here slashing. It's still the same angle of attack. Next will be a cross. In other words, horizontal. I'm coming across. This is number 3 right here. All right, then you got number 4, across on the other side. Across on the other side. Then you got number 5, which will be straight down vertical. This a lot of time is considered ice pick attack. Ice pick attack, or he could have a curved stab, or he could just try to slash you down. All right, then you have the straight stab. The straight stab, what we consider as a spear attack. It's coming in a straight line. And finally, you have the one from underneath. The one from underneath. Again, it could be any lead. It could be any lead. It could be left hand. It could be right hand. It does not matter. I treat it as an angle of attack versus which technique is coming in. Chris is coming with this angle right here. Again, I cannot read if it's a stab or a slash, and I will treat it per angle. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to angle up. If I stay within the direct line of fire or traveling that he intended to cut me, he's fixated on it. I'm going to change that as a tactic to move and kind of like getting off focus. Okay, so he comes in, I'm going to go 2 o'clock. This in some cases, depending on the length of the knife and the length of his attack and the penetration, we make him miss. So you're getting an extra little defense as you go. As I angle up, I'm going to seize. Now it is important here that you understand what I call the battery concept. A battery has a plus and a minus, a positive and a negative. Same thing happens with my hand. One of them is positive in the sense of if I'm holding my hand that way and I contain something, it doesn't fall. The other one is negative because if I open my hand, it drops. So I got a positive and negative. You have to seize the hand with that battery concept. If you have 2 positive, all he's got to do is yank and he's free. If you have 2 negative, he's going to yank down and he's free. Him being free with the knife is going to be a big liability to you at this moment. So I'm going battery concept. This is important in your programming. Do not start working and then later on, okay, I'm going to adjust it. The engagement is what's the most important. If you mess up here, you're dead. Okay, there's no second chance in a knife fight. So the engagement has to be proper. As soon as I got this seize, I am going to kick Chris in the groin. Now watch here, I'm not just going to pick up my foot and kick. If I pick up my foot and kick, when you see somebody, their reaction is to jerk back or jilt back. So if I pick up my leg to kick and he jerks back or jilts back, I'm going to get off balance. Not good for me. I'm going to prevent that by tilting myself or jilting myself first, pulling him into the kick. Because when I pull him into the kick, that short circuits him thinking about him pulling. So again, he came in, 1. Remember, battery concept right here. From here, you're going to pull into kick him in the groin. Okay? Right now, he's short circuit downstairs. In other words, he went from, I'm going to kill him, cut him, into what just happened, and he's kicked right here. You took the high zone to the low zone. Right now, you're starting the process of victimizing the attacker. Okay, go on the other angle, please. Same thing here. 1, pull and kick. From here, when I short circuiting him down here, I'm going to go into a point of reference and also into a transaction. After I kick him here, I'm going to come in and grab him by the armpit and hug him to my body. Okay, watch again. He came in with the attack. 1, 2, and right here. This is my point of reference. Same thing here. Battery concept. Positive, negative. If I have him like this, all he's got to do is yank up. And he's out, and he's cutting me in the process. If I have him like this, he's going to yank down, and he cuts me in the process. If I have 1 up, 1 down, he yanks, he's stuck. Okay, I'm going to have a good control over it. This hand here has to be across his face. If I have it like this, Chris can reach over and switch blade and start working for free. If I have my hand across his face, try to reach over, he can't. or he can either from underneath. In other words, right now I neutralized him. He cannot arm me with that knife. In other words, he cannot do any damage with the knife, and he can't switch it. Right now, that knife is no longer the danger. The danger is him. From here, I'm going to knee him 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Make sure when you knee him not to lose the control over here. All right? I usually teach my students, as soon as we got this, for them to try to get free. Try to get free, Chris. As soon as I feel that I have it nice and control, 1, 2, 3. I knee anywhere. This will bring you back to objective. Okay? Right now, right there is the foot. I can step on it and completely push and break his ankle. And right now you got a man with a broken ankle. He can't stand on his ankle. He can attack you again with that knife. So that will be one of the objectives. Or again, I can go after the knees, 1, 2, 3, straight down, schlag him out, and basically you terminate him. Okay, in other words, I'm not reaching out for the disarm. The last thing I want to do is go over there. Because if I go over there, that's exactly where his thought is. I want to go where he doesn't know what's going to happen. All right? Most people don't anticipate getting the ankle broken. Most people definitely don't anticipate getting schlacked out. All right? In other words, right now, those are your objectives. He attacked you with the knife. You completely neutralize and ignore the knife from this point on, and you're going to work according to Agana objectives. Again. 1, kick, bring it in. Nice point of reference, forearm across his face. 1, 2, 3, and one of the objectives. It is important when you seize the knife, when Chris comes in, that you have a full extension on your hand. If you don't have a full extension on your hand and you closer and he has used, let go please Chris, a reverse grip, he might have poked you in the eye, and that's going to affect the rest of the fight. Or maybe he was going for a curve stab and it's too close. You always want to use the full length of your hands as an extra defense. Do not get used to be up here. You want to seize it and keep it away from you until you short circuit in downstairs. Now it's safe to come in. Also, on the knees, remember, you need 3 times anywhere. Don't start looking for a target. You're going to be very stressed out when there's a knife involved. And what's important here is having that point of reference good, that if he yanks, try to yank out, he can't get out. This is more important than the knees. The knees is just short-circuiting him. On the wrenching the neck, remember to go tight. Don't reach for it. Tight, and remember to wrench this direction, right here. Don't just go up here, then he's just going to go with you. It's this direction, tight, and this direction. It's very important that if you go into an objective, you can finish up your objective because the knife is still in his hands. On the side. Okay, this time Chris is going to come in with that angle right there. Again, I do not know if Chris' intention is to slash me or stab me. I will treat it as the angle of the attack. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to angle out a little bit. I'm angling out for 2 reasons. Number 1, so he's not completely focused on a stationary target. Number 2, so it gives me more of a distance, so when I seize the hand, I am much more at the distance versus that I'm too close to myself. He comes in, and right here, remember battery concept, very important. 1 positive, 1 negative. If you have it like this and he yanks down, he's out. If you have it 2 positive, he yanks back, he's out. He's out, it's going to be a problem. So again, he comes in right here. From here, again, I'm going to want to kick him to the groin. As I kick him to the groin, I'm going to jilt him back. In other words, I'm jilting back to make sure that I'm not going to be off balance. Jilt him back, all right? It is important that you pull your leg back. If you kick and step forward, you're too close to the blade, and also there's going to be a transition anyway. So I'm pulling and kicking. From here, I basically short-circuited his thought from upstairs to downstairs by the pain. And I'm going to transit into my point of reference. Watch again. Back up, please. Again. He came in one, kick, transition. Remember, positive, negative. Remember to go by the armpit so you secure the face so he cannot reach out for that knife. From here, again, Chris is going to try to jilt out a couple times to make sure I got it right. As soon as I got it right, I'm going to knee 3 times. 1, 2, 3 times. All right? And from here, I can go into one of my objectives. Break his ankle or schlag him out. One more time. 1, kick, transition, tighten up. 1, 2, 3, schlag. Angle number 3. This time Chris is going to attack me horizontal. Okay? Again, he comes in and he's just going to take a slash right there. It could be a stab as well. Again, it could be a stab. I do not know what his intention is. I treat it by the angle. Again, as he comes in, I'm going to angle up a little bit. So I'm a moving target and it gives me more of a distance. So when I seize, I have a nice distance versus the knife is too close to me and then it short circuits me by cutting me. Again, he comes in, one here. Remember to have battery concept. 1 negative, 1 positive. If you hear, he yank out, and he's free. If you hear, he yanks up and he's free. Either way, no good for you, especially since the engagement was already established. So he comes in right here. From here again, I'm going to jilt him into the groin shot. If I simply pick up my leg and he yanks back, I'm going to lose my balance. No good. Always prevent that by jilting back. From here, I have point of reference right here. Again, he came in, 1, point of reference. This is important, that every time you're at the point of reference, you keep your body tight to him. Don't just do the hands because that freedom is going to cost you. Yank out, Chris. It's going to cost you. You want to be nice and tight. This is where you're going to be safe. That point of reference is your lifesaver in this engagement. Nice tucked in under the elbow, nice in the armpit, so your hand is here and you're preventing from pass. Only now you can go to work. Right now, as you reach the point of reference, as long as you don't have that point of reference, you're going to be stressed out. In other words, he comes in, and this is going to be a very stressful situation. As soon as I'm here, and I can go, oh, thank God. In other words, I got it. From here, I go to work. 1, 2, 3. And again, going into one of my objectives. Now, when I go to break his ankle here, it's important that you don't just push here, because while he disconnects, he might cut you in the throat. Okay? I want to push that angle away. So on the way out, he doesn't cut me. Again. 1, pull in, point of reference. 1, 2, 3, into one of my objectives. Either break his ankle or either schlag him out. Okay, as Chris comes in, it's important that you understand that a knife fight is dynamic and it's not always going to be perfect. In other words, maybe after you kicked, you don't feel comfortable and you're going to have to a little bit struggle. You don't have a chance in the street to say, hey, let's do it again. Okay, you're going to have to adapt. What your goal is here more than anything is to reach that point of reference. In other words, if something somehow was not perfect here, maybe you close instead of nice and big. Maybe you don't feel that you have a good hand and it starts jerking or jilting you, that's fine. Continue, and your objective is this. As soon as you got this point of reference, you will be okay. So sometimes your way up to here is not going to be by a blueprint. Fight is not a blueprint because there's two people involved. You cannot rehearse that, and you definitely can say, can you do it again? He's not going to do it again. His objective is to hurt you. And sometimes it's going to be not as planned. Therefore, your goal is to get here, no matter what. This time Chris is coming for an angle 4 attack. Either he's going to slash or either he's coming in with a stab. I treat it the same way. I'm not trying to detect what's coming in and getting more stressed out by it. Again, the first thing I'm going to do is angle out. I'm angling out for 2 reasons. Number 1, so I'll have more distance to seize. Number 2, so I'm not a stationary target and I get him somehow a little bit off focus. As I angle out, I'm going to seize the knife. Again, positive, negative. Not this way, definitely not this way. Positive, negative. From here, I'm going to short circuit him by kicking him in the groin. Same technique applies here. I'm going to jilt and pull into a kick. Don't kick and defensively wise he yanks back and you'll be off balance again. So you pull and kick to short circuit him. From here comes my transaction into the point of reference. Again, 1, kick, point of reference. Now as soon as you got him in a point of reference, again, on this side, attack. As soon as you got him in that point of reference, again, now you can go to work. Remember to have it tight to your body. Tight to your body. Make sure that it's a positive, negative, and your hand is on the armpit so you can control that it doesn't switch the blade over. From here I go to work. 1, 2, 3, and it puts me right into one of my objectives. Chris comes in across. Again, I angled out, I kicked. Now watch the transition. What gives me the transition is the jilt of me kicking in the groin. In other words, this is going to short circuit him. As I do so, I rotate down. Don't go across with the blade and then you get cut. Downward. From here, all I do is this hand scoops underneath, serves it into my chest, and I catch it. Okay, do not try to keep holding on and then your elbow is compromised and you're in awkward position. I don't want that elbow up like this. That hand holding here compromises your elbow leverage. All right, when you go here, all you do is down and you let go and you scoop and hug it. As soon as you got it hugged, you can go to work. This time I'm going to deal with the overhead. In other words, the angle is coming right from above me, what is usually called an ice pick. On this one, I'm going to have 2 tactics. I'm going to have the outside tactic and the inside tactic. In other words, I'm going to have the one that when I see it coming and I can move. Sometimes because of the nature of the technique, is already going to be on top of you and you're going to need a block to enter into your engagement. All right, I'm going to take you through the first tactic first. As he comes in, I'm going to move to 11 o'clock. Me moving to 11 o'clock is my defense because I am getting out of the line of travel. On this one, I'm going to shoot my hands up as a precaution. I am not seizing. Because of the nature of the attack and the leverage coming from up above, me seizing it is going to be compromising my safety. Therefore, on this one, I do not seize. As he comes in, I'm here. And I'm going to borrow his momentum to shove it right here. Okay, in other words, I am borrowing this momentum and dissolving the attack with the same motion where he was going to. Again, 1 and coming here. From here, all right, I am sticking my body to him to control him. Now you got to remember, he came with a lot of momentum, and his objective was to hit you with the knife at this height, but he's got penetration, and everything came down here. So that's going to help you out with this control. From here, I am going into point of objectives. In other words, I can either incapacitate him or terminate him. If I choose to incapacitate him, I'm going to turn the head and push him here and keep him close to my body so that knife doesn't come back to me. And I'm going to shove down again to the floor. And from here, I'll have a break ankle. Again, stand up, Chris. All right. When you, come on in. When you do the takedown, remember to push with your body and shove down here and driving straight down. From here again, you can choose which ankle you're going to attack. Or, of course, you can terminate him. In other words, he comes in, you got our line of fire, went here. From here, one, and schlock out. It is important here to realize that when I got him where I wanted, your point of reference is weaker because of the nature of the angle of attack. Therefore, you're going to have to neutralize in a different way. All right? When you're going for the takedown to break his ankle, remember to first push up. When you push the chin up, most people will try to resist going backward here. That's going to short circuit him instead of start thinking switching the hand with the knife or do something with the knife. In other words, when I'm here, he's going to try to push there. That will give you that you can take for the takedown or, so to speak, for the termination. Remember to slide up and don't reach out. He's going to bite you. Slide up. Now as he resists, you take that and borrow it for the schlock. All right, now we're going to deal with the fact that he's already on top of you and you never had a chance to move to the side. In other words, either he was already on top of you or your awareness wasn't there and your timing is off, and out of being the last resort, as he came in, I blocked. Remember, if you're forced to block, according to the relationship of the engagement, remember to have a 90 degree. Do not panic and reach out and then you're going to redirect that knife to your organs. Make sure it's 90 degree. Now, given the fact that I am not armed, in other words, I don't have a weapon to deploy, I'm not going to hit. Because if I hit now, I disconnect him, and then I do not contain him. Again, every time it comes in as a hand-to-hand tactic, I want to contain my opponent. I never want to repel him. It's a Nagana principle that is very important to keep as you fight, because you don't want to stress you out in the ways that you're going to start changing tactics. All right, so instead of hitting, what I'm going to do as he comes in here on contact, I'm going to shoot in my hand. As I shoot my hand in, I'm going to figure four and step through. Now watch what I mean figure four and step through. I'm going to shoot and put my hand right here. As I put my hand right here, it forms a number 4. It forms a number 4. That's why it's called a figure 4. As soon as I got the figure 4, I'm going to step through and push toward his shoulder. Do not push out, because then the hand gets straightened up and he has freedom with the knife. Again. So I'm here. I did this out of instinct. I shoot in figure 4. I'm going to push this way and step through. As I step through, I'm going to rip shoulder and take him down. Again. 1, shoot, step through, rip it, incapacitate him, and take him down. On this one, because of the nature of the attack, and it was a last resort, and I have a figure 4, I only have an incapacitation. I don't want to let go and try to fish for his head while the knife is right there. In other words, here, I am definitely going for the incapacitation of ripping his shoulder out completely and tearing all the tendons. It is important that you don't reach out and do it here, then it's strength against strength, and you're still in the line of that hand as a struggle. I'm going to step through and just rip and take him down, incapacitate him in the process. All right. As Chris comes in, Remember to maintain the 90 degree. As you shoot in, you're going to form the figure 4 by grabbing your own arm. Right now you got the 4. Remember to push towards his shoulder as you enter. If you're going to push this way, it's going to straighten him up and he's got something to fight with. I'm going towards his joint. As I do so, I step in and I rip. Okay, in reality, you just rip through. This time, Chris is going to come in with a straight stab. It doesn't matter if he uses this lead or if he stabs from the rear, or so to speak, if he grabs my shirt and goes for a stab. I treat the attack the same way according to the line of fire. Now, because he's coming in the center, that is considered primary danger. In other words, my primary defense now will be to move to 11 o'clock. I am going to cut angle to 11 o'clock. If I only do so, he's going to follow me and cut me. I'm going to have to insert a protection. From here, I'm going to have a 90-degree angle block. Again, he comes in, 90-degree angle block. The block is 90 degree. Do not have a diagonal. If you have a diagonal, you direct him to your abdominals. You keep it right here. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cup. All I do is this. Okay, do not grab with your thumb. If you grab with your thumb and he jerks it back, pull back, I'm going to go with it and it's going to short circuit me. I'm cupping it down simply so I can strike him, all right? Because on this particular technique, if I try to grab him, I'm going to end up too negative and cut it and kick him, I'm going to end up being cut. No good. So from here, I cup down and I short circuit him by hitting right here. As I hit him right here, I'm right into my transition, into my point of reference. Again. So number one, right here, 90 degree, cup down, hit him. Transition, point of reference. Make sure it's nice and tight. Make sure your hand is in the armpit so the head will not be able to switch the blade. And from here I go to work. 1, 2, 3, into one of my objectives. Again. This time Chris is coming in with an understab. Because of the nature of this attack being very strong, I'm going to take a 90-degree block to begin with. Okay, it's important here that you look at my body posture, that I'm leaning into the block, so I maintain the knife far away from me. If I simply block and the knife is long enough, and according to the penetration of his strength, I'm going to get stabbed. So I am going to actually lean into that 90 degree. Again, make sure it's 90 degree, not bigger, because then I'm going to actually direct him to my throat or to my neck. All right, so again, I'm here. Now I'm going to hit him in the groin. 1. As I do my transition. Why? When I'm here and I hit him in the groin, it's going to help me going into my point of reference. All right, again. Do not hit in the face. You hit in the face, you'll disconnect him, and that is designed for deployment. Right now, again, I'm working without a weapon. In other words, he comes in, 1, and hit in the groin. From here, I got my transition into my point of reference. Remember, you want this in, nice and tight. 1, 2, 3, and then you can go into one of your objectives. Again. Okay, that brings us to the issue. If you're law enforcement and you cannot incapacitate or you cannot terminate your opponent, as a guideline in the Haganah system, we do not like to disarm. However, if your job description dictates that you do have to do a disarm, it will be done out of a takedown. In other words, if Chris came in with any of the attacks, and I'm right here, and I kicked, and I got to my point of reference, okay, I'm not going to go here and try to do a disarm, because his mentality is all on the knife to begin with. Okay, the Haganah practitioner will be taught to get to the point of reference, demolish him, 1, 2, 3, and from here simply shove him down into a takedown. One here, strip down the knife. Okay, so if you have to disarm according to your law enforcement objectives, I want to take him down, soften him up, and strip the knife away when I am in a complete control of the situation versus me fishing for the knife. Also, it brings you also to the point of deployment. If Chris attacks me with a knife or shows the intention to attack with a knife and I'm on the job, most likely you have a firearm on you. And it's better for you to deploy and contain the scene with the firearm, because it's going to keep you safe much easier. However, if the contact was already established and you already into your point of reference, from here, if you want to disarm him, do not fish for the hand. Simply take him down first, soften him up, strip him down, and the knife is in your possession. That brings us to knife threats issues. A knife threat is different than a knife attack. The knife attack, the intention and the action was already in flight. With the knife threat, he's going to have one of 3 demands behind that knife threat. It can all be categorized in 3 categories. Number 1, possessions. Number 2, your body. Or number 3, information. Possession, it could be that he's robbing you, or he's kidnapping you, abducting you for ransom. Your body could be he's about to rape you, or he's about to kill you and then rape you. Or then it goes into information. He needs the information out of you. The first scenario is Carlos coming in, putting the knife right here to my throat. Again, there is a demand. If he wanted me dead, he would have cut me, and this would be irrelevant. That demand keeps me alive. The first thing I'm going to do is comply, or at least act like I'm complying. I am doing so I stress him down. His stress level goes down. He thinks he's going to get his demand. Therefore, it's not to his advantage to schlag me in my neck. And here also, I'm getting my hands closer to the area where I'm going to want to operate. So again, number 1 will be right here. From here, I need to prevent the primary danger of this threat, which is him moving the knife 1 inch this way. As long as I can prevent that blade traveling 1 inch this way, I will be safe. If I start stressing myself out, he's going to cut me, he's going to kill me, I can't focus. I'm going to be here and I'm going to prevent that. By that, I'm going to turn my body and hit the forearm. Turning my body will disconnect the blade. Hitting the forearm will prevent him to move in that direction. In doing so, I'm going to have to seize the hand, because if I simply do this, he's going to attack somewhere else. In other words, I'm going to have to seize that. I'm coming here and I'm seizing right here. Again, I'll do it slow. Amen. Whatever you want. Turn, hit, and seize. From here, I'm going to maintain the hold here. It's important that you hold him on your body and not here. If you hold here, it's easy for Carlos to come out and cut me open. So I'm coming in 1, 2, and hold him. A lot of times in training, I tell my people to try to yank out. And if they can't yank out, you got to secure properly. All right, from here, I'm going to hit right here with the back of my hand, serving me into my famous point of reference. As soon as I got a point of reference, it's very important here that your forearm is across his face. If you have it like this, he can reach out for the knife on the other side or on the inside, so to speak, and cut me open. Make sure that the hand is here so he cannot reach out for the knife. From here, of course, I'm going to work. 1, 2, 3 knees, and going into one of my objectives. When the knife is in, it's important that you put one hand in, one hand out. Don't put 2 hands out, and definitely don't put 2 hands in. You're going to need one hand in so you can operate. you always put the one that's out on the side where the knife is. In other words, I'm not going to put one in out in here because this hand is irrelevant, it's just holding me. I'm always going to be here. Now, if the knife is here, it's the same thing. One and in, one and out. Always the one out, the one that's by the knife. When you raise your hand, especially when it's this close, do not do it abruptly. Because when you do this abruptly, out of just reaction, he's going to cut you. You're going to have to just sneak your hand in, comply, tell him whatever he wants, and bring the hands right here so you can operate and work from there. Amen. Whatever you want. This side. Amen. Whatever you want. This time Carlos is coming in and putting the blade on the inside. In other words, the blade is here versus here. This will be a completely different technique because if you go here, you're actually going to help him cut. So on this one, you're going to have to go the other direction. Again, he's got a demand. That demand keeps me alive. I'm going to pick up my hand. One inside, one outside as usual. You're going to do this because I don't want you to go this one, this one, this one. I want all the time the programming be the same. I'm coming here. This time I'm going to prevent him to cut by grabbing and coming here. Watch again. Grabbing and coming here. From here, hit, point of reference, and you're going to stick the hand to your shoulder versus being on the chest. Again. 1, 2. Grab, point of reference. Make sure you maintain that the knife is secured to your shoulder. From here, 1, 2, 3 knees, and to one of your objectives. Again. Amen. Whatever you want. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, into one of your objectives. Amen. Whatever you want. Amen. Whatever you want. This time Carlos is going to come from the rear. Again, I have to identify the primary danger. Primary danger now is the blade traveling this way. I have to prevent him traveling this way. The first thing I'm going to do again is act like I'm complying, so I'm also getting my hands closer. What I'm going to do is I'm coming here and I'm going to plug right here. As I plug right here, the knife will disconnect. Again, this will be one, whatever you want, act like you're complying. Don't look at him with the corner of the eyes. They're very provocative and he might, out of being nervous, just lock you out. You hear one and dropping. As soon as you dropped here, you're going to secure this hand, hit him in the groin right here to ring the bell. Hitting the groin. Do not let go both hands. One and secure it. From here, I'm going to raise my shoulder to find my way out. From here, if you pay attention, I can actually stab him with his own knife and I didn't even put my fingerprints on that knife. I'm coming in the rear, pick up into a chicken wing. From here, I have my objective. I can schlock him out or I can take him down and break his ankle. Again, this will be one. Amen, whatever you want. Drop here. I disconnect the knife, hit him in the groin. Up with my shoulder, find my way out right behind him. You want to stab him, fine. Coming up, make sure you grab him here so he stays erect. From here, you can schlock him out or you can take him down and break the ankle. Okay, as you come from underneath, and here it's important that you keep everything tight. Don't come out and give him room. All he's going to do is yank and he'll be out and he'll be free. When you came from underneath, you want to raise your shoulders so you create yourself a window to step right back. So you can still stab him and you're going to drive that hand right behind his back while you're going to grab the shoulder right here and keep him erect. There will be the chicken wing right there. Only from here he's got already pain compliance. Right here. And you go into your objectives from there. Hand goes straight up, keep it tight. If anything, you want your whole body to be involved into the chicken wing. Hey man, whatever you want. Good, again. Hey man, whatever you want. The next two tapes are going to cover Israeli tactical knife fighting. Israeli tactical knife fighting is probably the specialty of the house of the Haganah system. Before I get into the technical parts of it, techniques, how we use the knives, I want to introduce you to why Israeli tactical knife fighting is such a specialty of the house. We believe that without you being able to use a knife as a weapon, all your self-defense techniques will be incomplete in the sense of this is a new era. This is modern combat. There is knives out there. A lot of times you're going to have to use those weapons to defend yourself. There are lots of people say, I don't want to carry a knife because I just don't like it. You're going to have to carry a knife to equalize your weapon. The knife is the greatest equalizer in hand-to-hand combat in the sense of as soon as a knife is in your hand, it doesn't matter how big he is. It doesn't matter how strong he is. The knife will equalize that instantly. On top of it, you have to look at the history of the Haganah system. The Haganah system pulls out of 4 systems, 2 civilian martial arts and 2 Israeli IDF military tactics, Kapap and Lotar. In both those systems, the knife is a prevalent, strong weapon. In other words, it is a big part of the culture in the Middle East. Throughout the history of the IDF and throughout the conflict between the Israelis and the Arabs, knife attacks have been part of the culture. And because of that, both sides are armed with knives. In other words, you'll have the knife attackers and you'll also have the IDF operators that carry knives. It is important that you learn how to use a knife also as an intelligence gathering, how to deal with the knife attack. If I don't know how a knife attacker is going to attack me with a knife, how the hell can I defend against it? In other words, I'm going to have to learn how to use that knife to be aware of what's coming in. If I don't know how to use a knife, I surely don't know how to defend against a knife. So that's on a tactical level. Also, it is important that you understand the violence involved in a hand-to-hand combat situation. Combat, street fighting, violence is serious business. If you don't bring the weapons into play and the other side does, they'll always have the advantage. So yes, you want to be the good guy, but on the other hand, you don't want to be the underdog in the fight. Therefore, it is important that you build Israeli tactical knife fighting into your curriculum, into your arsenal as an Haganah practitioner. With that in mind, let's get to work. This tape is going to deal with gun threats. Before I get into the technical aspect, I have to introduce you to concepts and principles of firearms and also strategies done with the firearms. This tape deals with gun threats. If somebody wants to shoot you, they will do it from a distance, and all these techniques are irrelevant. I cannot teach you to catch a bullet with your teeth. It's impossible. In other words, the only reason why you're staying alive is because it is a gun threat, not a gun attack. If he wants to shoot you, he will do it from a distance, and all these techniques in this tape is irrelevant. When a person pulls a gun at you and threats you, there are 3 objectives that he is going to have, and they all fall in one of those 3 categories. Number 1 will be motivated by financial gains. In other words, he has the object of possession. He wants to rob you. He wants to kidnap you and ask for ransom. He wants to take you to your ATM and take out all the possessions. He wants to take your car. That is considered possession. A lot of times that's a robbery. Give me your money. As soon as you give him that money, not only you gave him the money, you gave him your life. In other words, it is in his discretion if he's going to shoot you or not. In other words, that demand is what keeps you alive temporarily. The second one will be in the category of your body. They want to rape you. They want to kill you. They want to torture you. All those three or all those elements are considered they want your body. All right? And finally, the last one is information. The demand is, where is it? When is it going to happen? If it's civilian, did you do this? And if your answer is wrong, basically they can get mad and shoot you. In other words, those three demands categories are keeping you temporarily alive. If they wanted you dead, they would have shot you. So as soon as somebody threatens you with a gun, you're going to have to keep that demand not available to them, because that is what keeping you alive. Unless you understand that concept, you might do a mistake. You might provoke them to shoot you. You might give them what they want, and then out of non-identification purposes, in other words, they don't want that you identify them to the authorities, they're going to shoot you. So you have to understand that that demand is actually you temporarily insurance to stay alive in the gun encounter. Then it's going to bring us to the subject of what is a gun? What is a firearm? If somebody attacks you at gun threat, you need to stay calm. And a lot of people fear what they don't know. If they never held a gun in their hand, they fear guns. Oh my God, it's a gun. I never held a gun in my hand. It is a belief of the Haganah system, because of his military background and tactics of the Kapap and the Lotar system, that every human being has to accustom himself to firearms. Either you like it or not. It is part of modern society. If anything, if you're going to disarm somebody with a gun, you're going to need to be able to use that gun. Because if you can't use that gun, basically you have an object that is more dangerous to you than to the other person, because you don't know how to use it. So firearms is part of modern society. It is important that you get accustomed to them before somebody attacks you with it. That will bring you to the issue of what is a gun. A gun is a piece of machinery that does not operate without us as human beings making it go off. A lot of people, oh, the gun went off. The gun doesn't go off. It is us that pulls the trigger and makes the gun go off. There is no such thing as accidental, the gun just went off. The gun went off because somebody operated wrong. Okay, there's big misconception, and you need to understand that the mechanics of a gun is activated by a human being, not by himself. It is not an automatic thing that happens just by himself all of a sudden. Because of that, you're basically holding a piece of machinery that has a specific mechanic to make it go off. Any gun, if it's a revolver, semi-automatic, any type of gun that's on the market, has a pull trigger that puts the pull the trigger and drops the hammer on a firing pin. In the firing pin hits the primer of the bullet. Without that firing pin hit the primer of the bullet, the gun cannot go off. In other words, somebody needs to pull the trigger. When the firing pin hits the primer ignites the powder in the shell. There is an explosion that happens, and what happens is, out of the explosion, the bullet has no room to contain the gas that's in that shell, and it basically propels itself out of the chamber. So every time a gun goes off, it's because the trigger got pulled, the hammer hit the fire pin created an explosion in your hand, and the hand went off. That makes a lot of sound. It is important that you training of gun disarm involves that you train or tells you when the gun is going to go off, so you can expect it and anticipate it, and by doing so you surprise the other person versus you being freaked out of it because all of a sudden the gun went off. Also, that will bring the issue of when you go to the gun range and you shoot, you have earmuffs, and it's very comfortable and everybody shoots all day long and there's no problem. When a gun goes off, it's loud. When it's loud, your ears are going to ring. Now, if you, as you will see as the technique goes in, if you trigger, or you the one who times the pull of the trigger, you will be mentally prepared for it, and you have a mechanism in your body that actually muffles it, or in other words, temporarily, you can handle the noise. It is the other person who's going to completely be surprised by it, and that will be the short circuit of the gun disarms. And this is very important, because in gun disarms, I'm not going to start hitting him until I control the line of fire and redirect it. Therefore, the gun going off is the actual short circuit of the technique. With that in mind, let's get to work. Chris pulls the gun. As soon as that gun is pointing at me, it is considered a gun threat. It is important that you realize the relationship of the distance in the gun disarms. If I am far away, that I cannot reach that gun, no technique on earth is going to save you. If he decides to shoot, you better hope that he's a bad shooter and he misses you. In other words, you have to be within arm's reach to be able to defend yourself with the gun. Systematically, there is different angles that somebody can attack you with the gun. They can attack you from the front, they can attack you high, they can attack you low, they can attack you from the side and from the rear. Depending on the attack coming in is what you're going to defend against and how you're going to do it. However, there is principles that you must understand. Every time Chris points that gun at me, the primary danger is the line of fire. A lot of people think, oh my God, he's going to shoot me. Oh my God, he's going to pull the trigger. Oh my God, my head is going to get blown off. Him pulling the trigger is the action. Him shooting you is his objective. You getting your head blown off, it's the result. If you're thinking any of those three, your amount of stress is going to rise. And when your amount of stress is going to rise, you're going to get into shock and it's going to be impossible to deal with it mentally and emotionally. Anytime he pulls that gun at me, I think as long as primarily I get out of line of fire, I can survive the encounter. That what that's going to do to me, it's going to lower my stress. It is super important that you stay calm in this situation. Any jilt or any action might make him nervous and he's going to pull the trigger. Also, the professionals keep their finger off the trigger and they will not put that finger until they're ready to shoot you. Okay, in some ways, it's good that you have a professional in front of you, and in some ways it's bad because if he's a professional, he knows what he's doing, and most likely he would have not been that close to you to begin with. Then you got the deranged person. For some type of reason, he is not in a good day today, he's not having a good day, and his finger is right on the trigger. All right? This is the untrained person. The untrained person is very dangerous because anything you do, that gun is going to go off because he's a little bit less stable mentally and emotionally. So those are things that you're going to have to realize. All right? Every time a semi-automatic gun shoots, what happens is by the explosion that happens in the gun, the bullet will be propelled out of the chamber, will be pulled out. In other words, out of the muzzle will come a bullet. This will automatically create an explosion in the gun. And the slide will go back and retrieve another bullet. And right now, you have another bullet that went into the chamber. You interfering within the gun disarm with that slide going back and forth, you will jam that gun. Jamming the gun is a very good thing because now the gun is no longer a threat. It is him that becomes a threat. So every time you interfere in that slide going back and forth, you must realize that you jam the gun. This is going to become very important as soon as the gun is in your position. A lot of people get the gun and then they think they can shoot at them and then the gun doesn't go off. And if he's got another gun, he pulls his other gun and he shoots you because you'd never realize that a gun can jam. And that brings you back to the issue of you need to learn what a firearm is. It is part of modern society. Gun disarm number one will be a threat to the chest. Okay, primary danger is line of fire. Not him shooting me, not him pulling the trigger. You must understand that the primary danger is the line of fire. The first thing I'm going to do in all gun disarms is to act like I'm complying. Whatever you want. What this will do is it will lower his stress. In other words, he thinks he's going to get what he wants. If I start working and I jilt, he has only the pressure of pulling the trigger to travel with to discharge a bullet. I have to reach for him. That's much more to cover. Therefore, regardless if I'm fast or not, he's going to get there first and I got shot. So the first thing I got to do is always whatever you want. Do not say don't do it. If the person is deranged, the last thing he wants to hear is what you have to say about what he's got to do. Do not patronize by saying don't do it. Okay, you say whatever you want. This will lower his stress. Right now, I need to get out of the line of fire. That will be done by me rotating turning. Okay, I am turning my body versus moving. If I move, he's going to follow me eye-hand coordination with the gun. Not only that, if I'm not fast enough and he discharged now, that bullet is going to hit my shoulder. Shoulder is hard tissue. I'm going to get propelled backward, and he's already in a shooting stream, and he's going to basically unload the whole magazine on me. I want to turn, because while I'm turning, I am presenting soft tissue. In other words, even if I get shot, it's just going to glaze me. It's not going to propel me backward. So again, the first thing, amen, whatever you want. From here, watch what I'm doing. I am rotating and grabbing the gun. Okay, as I'm rotating, that takes care of that line of fire. In other words, I got out of the line of fire. As I do so, I'm going to shoot my hand right under the trigger guard. Do not grab by the barrel. If you grab the barrel, it doesn't have enough contour, and all he's got to do is yank back, and the front side will cut you open. You're going to be short-circuited into thinking about getting cut, and he unloads the whole magazine on you. Make sure that you grab by the trigger guard so it contours the whole gun. That will create that he will discharge, and the gun is not jammed. Again, amen, whatever you want. Right there, gun got discharged and it is jammed. Right now, I am not surprised by it. He is. Why? Because I am the one who triggered the discharge, not him. If he wanted to shoot me, he would have shot me to begin with. Again, amen, whatever you want. Right here, from here, I'm going to step in and punch him right here. Okay? It is important that when you step in, you don't get in that line of fire. In other words, go on this side, please, Chris. Again, I'm here. Amen, whatever you want. One here. See, the gun discharged over there. Right now, I step in and I hit him right there. From here, when I hit him here, that short circuits him in thinking over here. I'm going to shoot my hand down here and grab the corner of the gun. Do not get in front. Right, as you have your hand on the corner, it's important that you grab the corner so it gives you the leverage. Now, as I pull back, I'm going to want to pull back that foot. If I don't pull back that foot and he starts yanking, he's going to have the leverage. By me pulling here, I'm basically supercharging my leverage into the break of his finger. Now, as I turn here, what will happen if I take that hand out so you can see it, what will happen is as I peel the gun, at this point, the finger got broken. As I rip out, I'm going to demit his finger. So essentially, I broke his finger and I demitted it. Right now, his whole thought, it got short-circuited into the extreme pain that's on his finger. As soon as I pull the gun out, I'm going to have to operate that gun to be operative. In other words, the gun is jammed. I already established that. I'm going to have to unjam the gun by racking it and then telling him to get on the floor. Okay? Again, amen, whatever you want. 1, 2, coming in from underneath, corner, rip the gun out, rack it, and tell him to get on the floor. The issues of right hand, left hand, and two hands. Chris threats me here. If he's holding right hand, it's going to be this. If he's holding left hand, I am not going to go to the other side just simply because he's holding left hand. Under that pressure and that stress, the only thing you're going to see is the gun. In other words, you cannot go, okay, let me see left hand, right hand, and by the time you assess that, because you're looking suspicious to him, because you're trying to find out which hand it is, he might shoot you and you never got to do anything. So it'll be the same thing. The technique will work the same way, either on the right, the left, or so to speak, two hands. If he comes in with two hands, it's the same exact disarm. I do not change the techniques according to right, left, or two hands. What do you do as soon as the gun is in your possession? Okay, the first thing you're going to have to do on a survival level is to rack the gun so it's operative again. 90% of the time when you're going to disarm somebody, you are going to actually jam the gun. And even if you don't think it's jammed, don't take a chance, always end up racking the gun. As soon as you rack the gun, it is your responsibility to find out in new jurisdictions about deadly force and when use of deadly force is legal. In other words, you're going to have to abide to the law wherever you live in. Okay? Morally, you're going to have to give him a chance to give up as soon as the gun is in your possession. In other words, first thing I'm going to do is rack the gun. From here, I'm going to tell him, get him on the floor. Get on the floor right now. If he got on the floor, you do not shoot him. Why? He gave up, and obviously he's no longer a threat. If in case you tell him to get on the floor and he pulls out another gun, it's time to shoot him because he's endangering you. In other words, as soon as he pulls that gun, it's 2 to the body, 1 to the head, because it's going to be either him or you. And you got to make sure that it's you that goes home at the end of the day. In other words, he pulled another gun, 2 to the body, 1 to the head. In case you told him to get on the floor and he pulls a knife or he desperately attacks you, you are going to have to zip him up. If you go to the chest, 1 to the body, he still might get to you with that knife. In other words, yes, you shot him and he's going to end up dying, but he's going to cut you in the process and he's going to kill you as well. Therefore, nobody won. You're going to have to zip him up from underneath so he collapses. In other words, coming from underneath. So basically, you'll have 3 options. And again, you're going to have to check with your jurisdictions what deadly force is considered in your area. If he pulls a gun, 2 to the body, 1 to the head. He goes on the floor, you told him to get on the ground and he completely gives up, you wait for the authorities to get there and that's a legal process of itself. If he comes at you desperately with a knife or simply attacks you out of desperation, you will have to zip him up. That's the only way you're going to survive the encounter. Amen. Whatever you want. Get on the floor! Get on the floor! Again. Amen. Whatever you want. Get on the floor. The main reason why you don't want to hold the gun when you do any disarm by the barrel is for 3 reasons. Number 1, if you have a regular gun and you grab by the barrel and he yanks out, he's going to get free, number 1, and number 2, that front side is going to cut you. That will short circuit you in thinking, ouch, I got cut. The second reason is if he's got a revolver. If you're going here on the barrel, he can still shoot you because the drum can still rotate. If you go by the trigger guard, you interfere in the rotation of the drum rotating, therefore he cannot shoot anymore and you jam the gun. The final reason is for the compensated barrels. If I grab by the barrel and he shoots the first shot, I'm going to let go because it's going to burn me because there's a flare coming out. And then again, I did not contain the weapon. If I go by the trigger guard, when it goes off, I will not get burned. So again, number 1, so the sight doesn't rip you when he pulls. Number 2, so you jam the gun if it's a revolver as well. And number 3, so you don't get burned by the compensated barrel. The second disarm is going to deal with a threat to the head. This time, the threat is to the head. Now on this one, I'm going to choose a different method than doing this for the simple reason that if I had it to my body earlier and I chose to go here and that gun got discharged and I had a bystander, maybe I'm working VIP protection or maybe it's a family member, they got shot in the leg, they will survive. If I'm here to the head, it is a tactical mistake to do this disarm because whoever is by you got shot to death. Okay, there I'm going to redirect the line of fire upward. Okay, the first danger again is the line of fire. I'm going to get out of the line of fire by simply dropping. As soon as I drop, that takes care of my defense. At the same time, I am going to pigeon up. We call this pigeon in Israel because it looks like when the kids play on the shadow. I'm pigeoning up to the trigger guard. Again, I'm not going by the barrel. If I go by the barrel and he yank out, right? Again, I'm getting cut and he starts shooting me. I'm going by the trigger guard and seizing the gun. Now, all those 3 things happen simultaneously at the same time. So basically, I'll go, hey man, whatever you want, and boom. Right now, that gun got discharged. Now, who triggered it? Me or him? Me. He is surprised by it, okay? Again, I'm here. Hey man, whatever you want. And I'm coming up. Gun gets discharged. From here, I am going to turn, and this is going to be done violently, straight into his chest and break his finger. From here, I'm going to hit him with the firearm, pull out racket, and tell him to get on the floor. Again. 1 will be, amen, whatever you want. 2, gun get discharged. Right now, he's short-circuited by the discharge. I'm going to step in. Don't try to break his finger from here. You're off leverage. My left leg steps in if I'm right-handed. My right leg steps in if I'm left-handed. So I end up in a fighting stance or in a hand-to-hand combat fighting stance. From here, I break his finger right here. I hit him with the barrel, and I pull the gun out. This will basically break his finger and demit it again. Rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. Again, one more time. Amen, whatever you want. Bang, discharge, step in, hit him, rack the gun, and tell him to get on the floor. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor, right now. One more time. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor, right now. This time I'm going to deal with a front threat right here. He's just putting the gun right there. He's holding me. This is very intense. The first thing I'm going to do here again is act like I'm complying so he drops his stress. I'm going to pick up one hand inside, one hand outside. It's important that you don't go here. One inside, one outside. Okay? Again, the primary danger is the line of fire. I'm going to get out of line of fire by simply turning. By simply turning, I get out of line of fire. At the same time, I'm going to shoot for his forearm. So I disconnect it, and I'm going to grab the gun by the wrist. All right, so it'll be 1, I'm here. Amen, whatever you want. And I'm going right here. Now, it is important that you grab the gun right here. If you grab it here, he can turn his wrist now and shoot me right there. If I have it here, he can't. All right, so important that you go here and not here. Again. Amen, whatever you want. Right there, right there. From here, I'm going to hit him right in the neck. Right in the neck, point of reference. Knee him, go to the gun, break his finger, rip it out, hit him with the elbow on the way out, rack the gun, and tell him to get on the floor. Again. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going for ripping, break his finger. Now right here in Israel, we hit with the barrel. Okay, and I'm not getting into the consequences of that. Here I want you to hit with the elbow instead of the barrel. Do not, at no point, hit with the butt hand of the gun. If that gun goes off now, it will go off on you. That is a very tactical mistake, big mistake. You hit with the elbow, rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. And of course, you'll open the distance and you do so. Again. Amen, whatever you want. 1, 2, knee, break his finger, elbow, rack the gun, get on the floor. Again, Chris is here. I went 1, 2, 3, point of reference, knee. Now I'm coming in, watch. My thumb goes by the barrel and I grab here. What will happen is, as I turn the gun here, if you pay attention, his finger gets broken. In other words, put the finger in. I come in, rip his finger, break it. Out I go, elbow, rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor now. Again. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor now. On the floor. This time, he's going to put the gun to my head from the side. Now, there's going to be 2 scenarios. One, that the gun is in front of my ear, and one, that the gun is behind my ear. The first one I'll deal, that I am right in front of the ear. You will know so when he connects. If he puts the gun and he's not connecting, just, as you talk, step in and you'll feel the connection. Because if you do it, and if you're choosing the wrong counterattack to the wrong scenario, it's going to cost you with your life. Okay, again, the first thing here is the line of fire. First thing I'm going to do, amen, whatever you want. Do not put your hands higher than his hand because you're going to have to clear and that hand is going to be in the way. Just pick up your hand here. Also, anytime you do those big motions, don't do it, and you swing your hands, he might take that as a provocation and he's going to shoot you. So the first thing, amen, whatever you want. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to sidestep. Okay, pay attention here to the sidestep. I'm sidestepping out of the line of fire and deeper than the gun. In other words, I'm not only doing this. If I just go backward, he's going to follow me with the gun. I am clearing the gun by stepping in. Again, amen, whatever you want. And in the process, I'm going to again go to the trigger guard. Don't go by the barrel. He yanks it out, Chris, and he rips you open and then he'll shoot you. Always by the trigger guard. All right, again, one will be, amen, whatever you want. Two right here. As soon as I have it here, gun gets dropped, I hit him in the side, come in underneath, grab the corner of the gun, swing that leg back, break his finger, demit it, and puts him on the floor. Essentially, you are getting almost the same thing as being here to the body. Just it starts off with being to the side. So I'm 1, 2, from here, it's the exact same thing. Exact same thing. All right? We try to program our people as fast as possible to be able to fight. And whenever we can overlap technique or have a parallel concept, we will do so. In other words, if I can program you with less technique and it can apply to different angles, it's better for me to train you faster. In other words, I don't have to train you more scenarios or more techniques because it's different scenario. If I can get to the same concept from a different angle, I will do so. Again, thread comes in, amen, whatever you want. 2, 3, shoot from underneath, break the finger, rack it, tell him to get on the floor. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor right now. Again. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor. On the floor. This time, Chris is going to come and put the gun to my head, but it's going to be behind my ear. If I try to move sideways, I might get stuck, and now basically he shot me and I'm dead. In other words, I'm going to have to change my tactic. The first thing I'm going to do again is, amen, whatever you want, basically dropping his stress. From here, I'm going to turn in. Okay, what I'm doing is, I am turning out of line of fire, and I'm stepping in to pass the gun. As I do so, I'm going to trap here. All I'm doing is holding right by the forearm, and I'm going to shoot an elbow to short circuit him. Again, amen, whatever you want. Step in, clear the gun, and hit. Again, amen, whatever you want. Step in, clear the gun, and hit. From here, I'm going to grab, knee him, and push. So he's off balance. I'm going to reach for the gun from this side. It is important that I put the thumb by the slide, break his finger 90 degrees. From here, I punch out, which is basically ripping out the gun free. I hit him in the neck, pull out, clear it, and tell him to get on the floor. Again. This will be number 1. Clear the gun, step in, elbow number 2. I knee him and push, so he's off balance. That's 3. Go over, break his finger 90 degrees. Punch out, rip out the gun out of his hand, hit with the elbow, step out, clear it, tell him to get on the floor. Let's get it one time from this angle, please. Again. Amen. Whatever you want, step in elbow, step in knee, step through. Get him off balance. Grab here. Make sure your thumb is right here so you have leverage. Break it. Out, elbow, rack it. Tell him to get on the floor. Okay, as Chris comes in, all right, because it's side view, I don't even know if it's right hand or left hand. If Chris has the gun in his left hand, switch please, Chris, right? I do the exact same thing. I don't go, let me see, left hand, right hand, because every time you look at him with that corner of the eye, it looks very provocative. In other words, he might get nervous and shoot you. It will be the same thing. 1, step in, elbow him on the outside. Your knee will be a Charlie horse. Come out here and out we go. It's the same thing. And of course, go on the other side, Chris. It's the same element on this side. Again, I don't know right hand, left hand, both hands. One, it'll be clearing, kneeing, step in, disarm, out we go, clear the gun and down. So, because it's from the side, it doesn't matter if he's on left side, left hand, right hand, you always do the technique the same. You don't have the luxury to go, let me see, right hand, left hand. If you look at him the wrong way, he might get nervous, shoot you, no good. You don't choose where you're going, you just do the same technique and adapt yourself as you go. Hey man, whatever you want. Get on the floor, right now, get on the floor. Again. Hey man, whatever you want. Get on the floor, right now. Okay, now Chris is going to pull the gun and put it to the side of my body. Again, there's going to be two scenarios here. One that it's in front of the elbow and the second one behind the elbow. Two different scenarios, two different counterattacks. Same thing happens here. The primary danger is the line of fire. I am going to sidestep and get out of the line of fire. The same thing I did upstairs. As I do so, I'm going to have to control the weapon. I'm going to do so by holding the wrist and the barrel by underneath the trigger guard. Again, don't go by the barrel. Right here. Okay, again, hey man, whatever you want. Here, do not raise your hand and then you're going to make him nervous and bump the gun and he's going to shoot you. All you do, hey man, whatever you want. And you're coming here. As soon as you got this established, pay attention. I am going to step in, rip in. From here, hit him with the barrel, pull out, rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. Again, one will be right here, whatever you want. Two, from here, step in so you have leverage, hit him with the barrel, pull out, rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. It is super important here that you step in. In other words, don't go here and try to yank here, because right now, if you try to do this and he yanks back, he's got the leverage and he's going to shoot you. If right now Chris yank back, and I step in, I jammed it, and I can hit him with that barrel, and I troubleshoot him yanking backward. Again, I'm here. 1, 2. When you step in, make sure it's right here. As you step in, you yank the gun and point it at him. Hit with it and rip straight out. Don't start yanking the gun. Straight out like a piston. Now the gun is in my hand. Rack it. Tell him to get on the floor. Hey man, whatever you want. Get on the floor. Get on the floor. Again. Hey man, whatever you want. Get on the floor. Right now. All right, this time, Chris has the gun behind my elbow. In other words, if I try to move over here, he's just going to shoot me. In other words, I'm going to have to change the tactic again. All right, from here, first thing I'm going to do is comply. Again, don't bring your hand up here. It's very important, because then you're going to turn and wrap from up above, and that's a tactical mistake. You're going to need to wrap from underneath. Therefore, same thing as before, have your hands down, whatever you want. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn to get out of line of fire, and I'm going to step in to pass the gun. Okay, if you simply turn, you're going to turn into the gun. Make sure you turn and step in. As I do so, I'm going to wrap underneath. I'm going to wrap underneath. Try to get as close as possible to the elbow. Don't go by the wrist. If you go by the wrist and he yank out, he's out. Try to control by the elbow. Again, 1, 2. As I do so, again, here comes the shot to the elbow. That is all done simultaneously as one motion. So I got 1, 2. From here, knee to the groin, push him off balance. Reach over. You put your thumb on the slide, break it 90 degrees. Rip the gun out, hit him in with the elbow, rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. Again. Hey man, whatever you want. Hit. Knee, push him off balance. Break his finger, rip out the gun, elbow, rack the gun, tell him to get on the floor. One time on this side, please. Again, whatever you want. Step in elbow, knee, step through. I'm coming right here. Make sure you put your thumb right here. Don't do this. If you did this, it becomes a struggle. I want the thumb here and the finger here, and you're going to yank 90 degrees as one motion breaking his finger. From here, I'm going to rip the gun, punching it out here without no struggle. Elbow, step out, rack the gun, and tell him to get on the floor. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor right now. Good. Don't block the elbow. Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor. On the floor! Amen, whatever you want. Get on the floor right now. All right, now we're going to deal with the gun disarm that comes from the rear. In other words, Chris puts the gun to the middle of my back. Again, I don't know which hand it is. I certainly am not going to look which hand it's going to be, because every time I give him the corner of my eye, it looks provocative and it might trigger him into shooting me. The first thing I'm going to do is comply. Again, I am not bringing my hands up. If I bring my hands up, he might take this as a challenge and shoot me. I'm just complying. Amen, whatever you want. From here, I'm going to turn out of the line of fire, which is my primary danger, again, by simply stepping and turning. This will get me out of the line of fire. As I do so, I'm going to wrap from underneath. Again, whatever you want, turn, wrap from underneath. Again, whatever you want, turn, wrap from underneath. If you get it on the other angle, please. Amen, whatever you want, turn. Right now, as you can see, I'm out of the line of fire. That gun will discharge now, but I won't get a shot. And I'm coming underneath. Again, try to be as close as possible to the elbow versus coming to the wrist. This also will force you to step in. If you simply turn, then maybe you're just going to turn into the gun. Make sure you step in so you clear the gun and you can elbow as well. Here comes the elbow. Again, amen, whatever you want, turn. At the same motion comes the elbow. From here, knee, and step through. Keep him off balance. Right now, he's thinking, oh my God, I'm off balance. And hold on to him. From here, I'm coming to the gun. Again, thumb goes on the slide. Break 90 degrees, break his finger, straight out, rip it out. Elbow, pull out. Rack the gun, and tell him to get on the floor. Again, you got one here, two here. Knee, and step through. Make sure you contain him. Don't do this. Don't go one and hit him and let him fly, because just like it sounds, he flew back and he can shoot you now. Again, it's here, here, and here. Break the finger. Out we go. Elbow, racket, tell him to get on the floor. Amen. Whatever you want. Get on the floor. On the floor. Again. Amen. Whatever you want. Get on the floor. On the floor. Again, Chris is coming from the rear. Now, if he comes to my head or to the body, go back to the body, Chris. If he comes to the head or to the body, go back to the head. It's the same disarm. It's the same disarm. In other words, I treat it the same way. If he's right hand or the left hand, I don't know so. In other words, from here, I turn into it. If he's got the gun in the other hand, put the gun in the other hand, and he threatens me, it's the same disarm, just I'll have to adapt to it. The only time I choose where to turn if he puts the gun to my back and he holds my shirt with the other hand. Then I can't turn over here because that is restricting me. Therefore, on this one, I will be forced to turn to this side with the same exact technique. Okay, so only if he restrains me with one hand, I'm going to go to the other side. If it doesn't, I treat right hand, left hand, two hand, gun, shotgun, assault rifle the same way, because I really don't know what's behind me. I'm just feeling a firearm digging into either my back or my head and give me a threat. I do the same technique regardless of the variation, unless he holds me with one hand. When he holds me one hand, he tells me in which hand he's got the gun, and therefore I will go wherever it's less restricted. Okay, now I'm going to deal with an attacker that comes from behind and sees me completely into what I call a hostage scenario. This is going to be a completely different dynamic in the sense of he's going to wrap his hand around me. Chris wraps his hand around me and puts that gun right into my forehead. Again, my primary danger now is the line of fire. However, I'm not going to be able to move or turn anywhere out of the line of fire because he has seized me. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do again is I'm going to comply and raise my hands. As I raise my hands, what I'm doing is I'm getting my hand closer to the gun, since I'm going to have to basically seize the gun because I can't turn out of the line of fire. Anytime I turn now, I'm going to get shot anyway. So one will be here. Number two will be seize the gun and turn it out. Okay, I'm going to go one time slow, pay attention. I'm coming one here, turn the gun out. That will be do so by me putting my thumb by the trigger dot, seizing and turning it. Now you're going to have to practice this, but as soon as you got it, it'll be fast enough. Now at this point, the gun got discharged, and the gun is very close to both of us, but I was ready for it, he wasn't. That's what short circuits his thought right now. From here, I'm going to squeeze out and hit him in the groin. This will short circuit him downstairs. From here, I come out the back door, and I'm pointing down the gun. Make sure you don't point it at you, still out of the line of fire. From here, I'm going to hit the plea right here. And as I hit, I'm going to step back. And I disarm him, rack it up, and tell him to get on the floor. Again, I'm right here. First thing, amen, whatever you want. Two will be here, gun got discharged. This is what short circuits his thought. This is what short circuits him physically by hitting him in the groin. I come out the back door. From here, hit and yank out. In case you have a struggle here and you can do it, kick him in the leg, out we go, and you'll still be out. As soon as you reach this point, it's important that you pull down and out. Don't pull it to you. If you pull it to you and you're dealing with a professional, even if the gun is jammed right now, he'll involve that hand to unjam the gun and unload it on your leg. Make sure it's still out of the line of fire as far as your leg is concerned. Now when I go to hit here, don't do it like this, because if it slips out, you did not accomplish nothing by it. You're going to hit with the wedge of your hand. As you hit, you're going to yank. As you yank, you're going to pull that leg out. So you have three actions against one hand. You got one here, two here, and the ledge over your leg. That will make him let go. And rack the gun, and down we go. Hey man, whatever you want. Get on the floor. On the floor now. Again. Hey man, whatever you want. On the floor. On the floor. The Haganah system pulls its resource from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. Originally, all the techniques you are learning in the system came out of the battlefield, and the weapons were different. Systematically, in an army setup, the first line of defense is the Air Force. Second line of defense will be the artillery. Then you got the army, which is the tanks, and only then comes the foot soldier. So the progression on the battlefield is actually the other way. However, the resource and where it came from comes from the battlefield. This is where the Haganah system will give you a system that you can trust. And when people can trust the system, the confidence level rises to begin with. All right, so originally the scenario was that the assault rifle was coming from the rear. Again, number one will be, I'm going to act like I'm complying. From here, two remains the same thing. It is very important here that you realize that is why we come from underneath the weapon and not from over the top, because when I come from over the top, I have no control of the weapon. When I come from underneath, what will happen is I'm wrapping that weapon real good. From here comes the elbow, step in, give him a knee, and push him off balance. From here, I'm going to grab that barrel and shove it right on top of him and rip it out, and I contain the scene. Again. One will be here. Two, knee him, step through. Hit him with it, come out, and here we go. The next segment is going to deal with a third-party gun disarm. A third-party gun disarm usually is talking about the issue of abduction, hostage. Basically, you will defend somebody that's been attacked by the assailant. There's a few levels to this. There is the level that you will be negotiating in the process. There's the level that you'll come from an angle that they don't expect it. This specific one will be that I'm coming from the rear. Now, if it's a hostage situation and law enforcement is involved, this is not going to be done by only one operator. In other words, there will be a negotiator, there will be a sniper set up, this and that. Right now, I'm dealing that I am the only one on the scene. In other words, either I'm the first one that got dispatched on the scene, or either this is a civilian situation that somebody grabbed a loved one of mine and I need to defend them. Chris is going to grab Candice from the back and put the gun up here. Now again, if Chris wanted to shoot Candice, he would already done that. Therefore, there's a demand. All right. At this specific technique, I'm going to come from an angle. Okay. Me coming from an angle, I'm basically not letting know Candice or Chris that I'm going to intervene. In other words, there is no anticipation on their side. I'm coming from an angle, and what I'm going to do is the problem here and the primary danger is the line of fire to Candice's head. I am going to redirect the line of fire. Since Candice doesn't know I'm going to do something, I cannot cue and say, Candice, move out of the line of fire. That will trigger Chris as well at shooting her. Therefore, I'm going to have to redirect the line of fire versus make Candice move out of the line of fire. So I'm coming here, and all I'm going to do is I am going to shoot my hand and turn the gun into Chris. Okay? Again, I'm going to shoot my hand and automatically or directly turn the gun into Chris. When I do so, I'm going to dig that gun as strong as I can, either in the collarbone or in his chest. So that will short circuit him into becoming victimized or thinking defensive wise. So again, I'm coming, I am shooting, and right away, right here, all right, from here, I'm going to have to disconnect Chris from Candice. That will be done by pushing on his kidney pressure point from the rear with my knuckles. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press here and keep shoving here. So in case Chris pulls the trigger, he actually pulls the trigger on himself. And from here, I'm going to simply shove down and take Chris down. From here, gun will be in my possession, and right there, I got the threat taken care of. Again, Candice, please. All right, so again, I'm coming in here, shooting in, straight in. From here, take down and disarm, and I take it over. Now, because of the nature of the encounter, Chris might get shot, okay? That's a given, because I'm turning the gun into him. This third party, the stakes are higher, and the gun might discharge on him. That's just part of the technique. As far as the rear part of it, you're going to put your knuckles, dig into him, and push the gun, use the muzzle of the gun, and you're going to arch him. So right now, if you pay attention, he's on his heels. As he's on his heels, I'm going to start driving straight down with the gun like a piston, straight down. And from here, the pain will either let him let go of the gun, or you'll have to hit him one time, and now the gun is completely in your possession.
This bus is mine! I can't get in! Everybody ride it! Drive the bus! Keep driving the bus! Get down! Get down! Get down! Stop the bus! Stop the bus! Stop the bus! Stop the bus! How do we go? Everybody out! Everybody out! Everybody out! Out the bus! On the ground! On the ground! On the ground! On the floor! Get on the floor! Don't move!